Hi, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're watching from. This is Toyin Oladiran, or Coach Toyin, Christian Transformation Coach and founder of the Navigate Way. How are you? So I want to do a quick, I want to share with you guys something that happened this morning, but actually it's been happening over like about 6 months. But it literally culminated to something that happened this morning. I want to share that with you. Guys, ignorance costs. Ignorance costs. By the way, when you come in, say hi. Just post a comment. Let me know who you are and where you are hailing from. Okay, so like I said, this is Coach Toyin, Christian Transformation Coach. I hope you can hear me properly. I'm just walking a little bit. So I just came out of a store called P3 Computers. I took one of my laptops in. I've got a laptop that my husband bought for me about maybe 8 months ago. I really needed it because I was like, you know what, I when I stopped working in my last job, I didn't have a laptop. That I was left with a MacBook Air, right? And I don't really like working on Word with a MacBook. And so the problem with that was that I do a lot of work on Word. I'm creating programs, and basically I do a lot of work on Microsoft Word. So having a MacBook is a problem because you have to sort of download the you have to download the Microsoft apps and stuff like that. And I wasn't really feeling that. Anyway, so my husband bought me this new laptop after I insisted, and he was like, "Oh, but isn't it a waste of money and everything?" But I was like, "Yeah, we need to do this." So we got the laptop. And then within a bunch of months, I couldn't use it anymore. Why? Because it got a black screen. So basically the laptop was working fine, but the screen went black. And as a result, I wasn't able to, the functionality was not great. It was very difficult to use. Sometimes you won't be able to see some of the words, etc. I don't know who just came on, but hi. Oh, hi, Tolu. Good to see you. So I couldn't use this laptop properly, and it was so frustrating for me. At the time I was in Nigeria, and I asked around, I was like, where can I get somebody to help me fix this thing? And I couldn't find anyone to fix it. I finally got someone to fix it. The person said, we're going to charge me like 20,000 naira or something like that. That was like ridiculous. I think 20,000 naira would be something like $500 or something like that. I was like, what? To fix a black screen? I knew it was something that if I was just tech savvy, I would be able to fix, right? But I couldn't figure it out myself. Anyways, fast forward how many months later? It's now November, and I'm currently in the US, and so I was like, you know what? Let me go and take it to a computer store. Since I'm not in Nigeria, let me go take it to a computer store and see what's going to happen. Guess what? I walked in there thinking I'm going to have to leave this laptop there with them and stuff like that. All this time I've been managing with my MacBook Air, which is really not easy to use when it's really not easy to use because I'm working on Microsoft Word a lot and stuff like that. But I take it in, and the guy looks at it, he's like, oh no, this is really simple. I kid you not, in 5 seconds. Hi, Rich Gold, good to see you. Hi, Bukola, good to see you. Thanks for coming in. I kid you not, in 5 seconds, he had finished. He just clicked search. He looked for something called contrast or screen contrast. He changed the setting in 5 seconds, my laptop was restored to normal functionality. In 5 seconds. And I looked at him and I'm like, you're kidding me. I have been stuck with this laptop and with this black screen for about 6 months. I haven't been able to use this laptop properly. I've been managing with my other laptop. It's been really hard. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, well, you've just got to know what to do or what to tweak to fix the problem. And I walked out of there so glad that I didn't have to leave my laptop behind. I mean, I must have driven about 6 miles away from my house in order to find the store that was going to fix this thing for me. And it took me 2 seconds. It took him 2 seconds and he fixed it. And I walked out of there thinking, you know what? Ignorance is going to cost you. Ignorance is going to cost you. And of course, as always, the point of this platform, the point of the Navigate Way platform is so that as I'm doing life, as I'm experiencing life, as God is exposing me to the most random experiences sometimes, I learn things from them from a Christian transformational perspective, and I share them with you. And my aim is always to encourage you to constantly be intentional and purposeful about your very own Christian transformational journey. It's not enough to just get saved and stay the same way. We need to be transforming into the image of Christ. We transform into the image of Christ by being intentional. By being intentional about setting our mind on things of the Spirit and not on things of the flesh. By learning through the experiences that we have. And so what did I learn through this experience? I learned that ignorance is going to cost you. Ignorance of God is going to cost you. Ignorance of the word of God is going to cost you. There's so many of us that are walking around, we are Christians, we really genuinely believe in this Jesus, but we don't actually know him. We don't actually spend time with him. We don't spend time in his word. We don't spend time in the Bible. We don't spend time in prayer. We don't spend time interacting with people that believe in him as well. Instead, we spend our lives, we spend all our time and our minds and our thoughts. We spend everything on experiences that take us far away from God, or that just, have nothing to do with God. Not necessarily bad experiences, guys. Not necessarily bad things. But we spend our time on stuff that is not going to fill our hearts with God. And so that leaves you ignorant of God. And then when things happen in our lives, we're wondering, why would God allow this to happen to me? Or, people offend us, or people, or we're offended with the church. I mean, this is Christmas season. We're getting into December. The Christmas season brings up a lot of feelings for a lot of people, especially people who've been offended by Christianity or offended by the church. But a lot of it is, a lot that underlies that stuff is ignorance, because we have not actually taken the time to get to know this God that we believe in, to get to know this God that we serve, to read our Bible, to study the word, not just read one verse, you understand a day, and then you pray for 5 minutes and then you rush off. To read the word, to really, spend time in it, to study the books of the Bible, to get to know Jesus, the man Jesus, when he walked on this earth. Who was he? How did he live? What did he stand for? What were his values? What was he passing on to you and I? Do you understand what I'm saying? That is what we need to do. Ignorance is going to cost you. Ignorance of the word of God is going to cost you, because you're not going to know how to stand in who you are as a child of God. You're not going to know how to fix your laptop, if you understand what I'm saying. You're not going to know how to fix the issues that you see in your life. You're not going to know how to fix the issues that you see in your community and in your family and in the world around you. You're not going to know how to discover your God-given purpose, the purpose that God created you for. You're not going to know how to know what he wants you to do in order to walk in the purpose that he has for your life. I hope you can see me properly. I know the lighting is a bit funny because I'm standing outside. Let me get back in the car. You're not going to know. Ignorance is going to cost you. Ignorance is going to cost you your life story. It's going to cost you. This situation cost me 6 months. 6 months, guys, of not having a good laptop to use. I mean, my MacBook Air is fantastic, but it's just not perfect for the kind of work that I'm doing every day. Ignorance is going to cost you. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you effort. I had to drive all the way 6 miles away from home after doing my school runs in order to come to this store. Ignorance is going to cost you opportunities. Ignorance of the God that you serve is going to cost you. And I want to encourage you guys today. Get to know this God. Do not be satisfied with just saying, I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus. What does that mean? What does that even mean? And that's what the Narrow Gateway platform is about, is to answer those questions. As I figure out answers to those questions, I share them with you. And I hope that you also start to share your answers as we go along. What does it mean? What does it mean when I say I believe in Jesus? What does it mean? What does Christmas mean? You understand? What does it mean for me to transform into the image of Christ? Why do I have to transform into the image of Christ? What does that look like? It's really, really important, guys. It's super important that we don't walk around as ignorant Christians, not knowing how to sort things out in our lives, how to handle the issues that arise in our lives. How are we going to handle the issues that we face in the world if we're ignorant of who we are and of who God is? If we're ignorant of the things that he has placed in our hands in order to solve the problems that we see in the world, because that's what we're here for. That's what you're saved for. You weren't saved and then taken to heaven. You were saved and left here on earth. You're left here on earth so that you can continue to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. But if you're ignorant of what God has made available for you to sort out the issues in your life, how will you be able to help the people around you? So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And in a very related note, I'm going to share a link in the comments later on of a message by Bill Johnson that I was listening to just a moment ago while I was driving, and it's called The Cost of Prayer. Prayer is another way in which you overcome ignorance in your life. I'm going to share that link, and it's a 45-minute teaching. I want to encourage you guys to click on that link and listen to it. It talks about the cost of prayerlessness. The cost of prayerlessness. Prayer is one of the ways that you deal with ignorance in your life. The more you pray, the more fervently, the more passionately, the more time you spend in prayer. Prayer is you communicating with God. It's about relationship. It's about interaction. It's about presence of mind. That's what prayer is about. With God. the more of a prayer life you have, the more prayerful you are, the more you know God, the more you know his plan for your life, the more you understand who he is and who he has made you into, the more you understand, you have a comprehension of the issues that you're dealing with in life, or the issues that you see in the world, the things that bug you. Some of us on here are so bugged by the brokenness we see in the world. We're so bugged by the problems in our communities and in our societies and in our families. It weighs us down, and we wish we could do something about it. A prayerful life is what you need in order to help you to understand what is it that God wants you to do with your life. How does he want you to co-work with him to fix the problems that you see in the world? You're not going to get to know, hi Monwa BC, good to see you. Thanks for joining. You're not going to get to understand, and you're not going to get to know the things that God has called you to do. You're not going to get to even understand the problems that you see in the world and in your life if you're not a prayerful person. There's another thing that prayerfulness helps you with. Prayerfulness also helps you to fight temptation. It helps you to stay away from temptation. It protects you from temptation. And when you do get tempted, it helps you to stay away from temptation. Guys, like I said the last time I came on live, when I say these things to you, I'm not saying them from a point of view of, yeah, I've got this sorted, so now I'm telling you, I'm preaching it to you. No. These are things that I am dealing with in my life, and I am sharing them with you, and I'm saying, as I'm being transformed, let's do this together. Let's be transformed together. You should also be intentional about your transformation. Prayerfulness helps you to stand against temptation. It helps you to stand against temptation. It helps you to be strong when you get tempted. You know, sometimes you guys reach out to me in private messages and you tell me, Toyin, I'm struggling with this sin. I'm struggling with that sin. I'm lustful. I have, I watch pornography. I sleep around. I steal. I've got anger in my life, malice, bitterness, etc., etc. One of the key weapons that God has given us as children of God to stand against temptation to sin, because even though we are Christians, we sin. The fact that you're a Christian doesn't mean you do not sin, but God has given us the power not to be sinful. And one of the weapons is being a prayerful person, being a person whose mind and heart is in constant communication with God, who you're constantly listening to God and you're constantly speaking to him. That's prayerfulness. So I started off by talking about ignorance is going to cost you. Ignorance of God, ignorance of who he is, ignorance of his word, ignorance of who he says you are, ignorance of his purpose for your life, ignorance of the tools that he's made available to you to stand and to thrive in this world and to change the world around you. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you opportunities. It's going to cost you lives, because there are people waiting in the wings for you to stand in the purpose of God for your life and do the things that God has called you to do in their lives. Ignorance is going to cost you. And one of the things that you need to be knowledgeable about is prayer. One of the ways in which you get to know God and ways in which you get to know what he's called you to do in this life is prayer. A prayerless life will cost you. We're going to talk about that a whole lot more in December